And joining us now is Dr. Marianne Hirsch, professor of English and Comparative Literature at Columbia University. And Professor, I know you've been working closely with students involved in the demonstrations. Are any of those students still on campus? What are they telling you right now?
I'm not in touch with students directly. I'm in touch more with faculty, a faculty group who's been supporting students. And so I'm not in touch with the students who've been in the demonstrations and in the protests directly.
Okay, what have you heard from the faculty group that has been in touch with the students?
Well, I mean, we all think this is a terribly tragic situation. We do not want police to be entering our campus. We think this is putting the entire campus community and the neighborhood in Columbia, where I live, at tremendous risk to bring police in riot gear. I think there are many different ways that this could have been resolved with further negotiation. It did not have to be done at this speed. And let us not forget the escalation that the university itself is responsible for after months of escalating the situation, and especially bringing police in on April 18th with little lead time after the first encampment was built.
And so you said that there are other ways that this could have been handled. How would you have liked to have seen it handled?
Well, there's professional mediation, there's further negotiations. We've seen building occupation and student protests over the history of education since perhaps 1968 and maybe before that. And there are ways to resolve this with mediations and some patience.
It does sound like it came to really a standstill when one of the main demands from the students who were protesting was that Columbia University divest, right, from any businesses at all related to the Israeli government. And the Columbia University clearly said, that's not an option. We're not going to divest. So at that point, how do you mediate further?
Well, there were a number of different demands. I think that the divestment had to do with the arms industry and with arms that are being provided to the state of Israel to carry on this war. I think students are watching a brutal war across the world. We have a very diverse student body of Jewish students and of also Palestinian students. And these students are watching the brutality going on across the world in which our government and our university is participating. So I think they feel like they're colluding, they're implicated in a situation that they find untenable, and they don't find that business as usual can go along. I'm not saying that I approve of taking over buildings. This is an act of civil disobedience that really didn't need to happen, and it didn't have to be this way. There could have been much more thoughtful negotiations in which the people from the administration could have gone down to the encampment to see. I was there. I had a Seder at the encampment with the students. It was peaceful. Students are very earnest. They have very strong convictions. And I think they're being treated like terrorists rather than as our students whom we care for. We have students in that entire core, part of the campus, who are being put at risk with armed police in riot gear coming into campus.
Do you see these demonstrations as different from other campus protests that you've seen in the past?
Well, I think they've each been different, but I'm old enough to have been in the demonstrations in the late 1960s when I was a student. I was a faculty member during the divestment movement from South Africa. All of these have involved actions by students that sometimes broke university regulations. But I think the impatience and the speed with which this had to be resolved, I have not experienced before, and the brutality of it.
There is speculation that many of the demonstrators are not affiliated with the school. I know you were saying that you went to the encampment and had Seder dinner with many of the students. Are you, from at least the encampment perspective, did you believe that you were predominantly among students?
The encampment was predominant, but probably, I mean, as far as I know, all students. That I understand is not at all the case in Hamilton Hall, and I don't know how those people get in. I think there were a number of demonstrations outside the gates of the campus that were obviously not students and not people in our community, and this has become what's happened, and I have to, the responsibility goes to our administration that this has become a focal point of protest of many different kinds. We've had many people come to this neighborhood to protest who have nothing to do with our university.
And Marianne, before I let you go, I'm curious what you think of the president of Columbia University and how she's handled this.
Well, I'm not happy with how she's handled it. I would hope that she would acknowledge the mistakes that she's made, certainly in the congressional hearings in which she herself violated Columbia University procedures that are very long-standing in a number of different ways. So if students are being punished for violating process and violating university rules, I'm afraid that she violated some university rules herself. We would expect at least an acknowledgement of that. And I think that, as I said, it didn't have to be this way. This did not have to be handled this way. For example, she never came down to the encampment to talk to the students or to the faculty who were there to witness some of the deadlines that have been set.
Marianne Hirsch, Professor of English and Comparative Literature at Columbia, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you.